Did you know that the word racism didn't end up in our dictionaries until 1934? No, not till 1934. But somehow we're told we have had this historical, systemic racism problem. Yeah, well, I would say it's more like a DEI problem in Merriam-Webster's. So back in 1934, there was this woman, Rose Frances Egan. She was likely part of the aesthetic movement. The aesthetic movement was all about art, and it's art for art's sake. She wrote this book. I'll show it in a minute. But she needed a synonym for discriminatory or discrimination, and so she had was asking because of something she was writing, Merriam-Webster, about putting this in the dictionary, racism. So they did put it in. She went to them in 1934, but by 1939 it appeared in the dictionary's addendum, defined broadly as an assumption of inherent racial superiority, okay? And early definitions often referenced European fascism and Nazi ideology, reflecting the political climate of that time. Now, jump ahead to, so that's all. Racism was put in there as the definition I told you. But then in June 2020, one woman, a new graduate from Missouri, suddenly decided, no, the definition of racism needs to be changed. Oh, because of George Floyd, of course. A Missouri woman asked Merriam-Webster to update its definition of racism, and now officials will make the change. Oh, they sure did. They made it so quick. Emily Brewster at Merriam-Webster decided, of course, we'll change the definition for one person. Did you know that you can just email her and you tell her that I want this definition changed, and she will do it? It's that quickly done. Amazing, isn't it? Yeah, but the thing is, you're going to have to be on the right side of DEI, if you know what I mean, because that's what it's all about. Socialism, communism, Karl Marx, DEI. In June 2020, Merriam-Webster revised its definition of racism to include systemic oppression, following an email from Kennedy Mitchell, who's the woman I just showed. From a recent college graduate from Missouri, Mitchum argued that the dictionary's existing definition focused too narrowly on individual prejudice and failed to address racism as a system embedded in institutions, laws, and power structures. Merriam-Webster editors agreed, stating that omitting systemic aspects could mislead readers. Oh, and this wasn't like it was some big board. It was her and two other people, all DEI people. And they quickly changed it. They updated the definition that now reflects both individual prejudice and systemic racism, aiming to better capture the broader societal impact of racism and its historical roots in structural inequality. How is that possible, Emily Brewster? Really, how is that possible when the word racism wasn't even in the damn book, in the Webster Dictionary, until 1934, you liars? But this is, they don't care. It's all about DEI. This woman that just suddenly got them to change their mind, which that's not what happened. It was very designed and deliberate. Because that's why all of the nursing and medical associations, all the hospital, all the education systems started coming out saying, we have a systemic racism problem, systemic racism, and they had to say it over and over and over and over and over and over again, just like they have to say diversity, equity, inclusion over and over and over and over again, so that it is embedded in you, so that then you say, yeah, we've always been this racist country. Well, how could we possibly have been when the word racism wasn't even in the dictionary until 1934, huh? Because DEI people will change your history, and it's playing with wordcraft, spellcraft. Literally, that's what it is. I mean, really, this girl just decided, I'm going to be that much of a narcissist. I just graduated from college and I'm going to decide for the entire country and the entire world that there's a systemic racism problem in America. No, this was all DEI designed, Marxist, communist designed. And it just so happens that Kennedy Mitchum, well, as you can see here, she's equity centered. Yeah, she's an equity and diversity specialist. She was tired of her peers lecturing her about racism, so she reached out to Merriam-Webster to update its definition. And then Emily Brewster and some other editor, two other editors that, are all of the age of, probably not even over 40, decided, well, yes, of course, we should go with the one person that's calling us and telling us to change the definition, even though the very word racism wasn't in the dictionary until 1934 by a socialist that wanted it put in to serve her paper. See, this woman, Rose Frances Egan, she's the one that reached out to the editors back in 1934 and said that she needed another word for a synonym for discriminatory or discrimination. And all that was in the dictionary, because I have a 1929 dictionary, is race and racial. That's it. So she reached out to them. Now it took in that case, she reached out to them in 1934, and then by 1939 they put racism in. But something interesting to note is you see the title of this book, The Genesis of the Theory of Art for Art's Sake in Germany and in England. So she was really part of this movement called the aesthetic movement, which is all about art is art for art's sake. It's a movement that's all about how everything looks on the outside. Who cares about the inside? Who cares about morals and ethics? It's art. Sort of like, that's why you play with words. The aesthetics movement refers to a cultural and artistic trend that emphasizes the importance of beauty and sensory experiences, often prioritizing aesthetic values over moral. But they were very much, and then it says this movement emerged in the late 19th century, particularly in Europe, of course. Everything that wants to hurt America comes from Europe. And they are very much very tied to socialism and even fascism. Yep. So that's what DEI is about. It's Nazism, fascism, all of that. So that's why it only took one woman, Kennedy Mitchum, to contact Emily Brewster at Webster and say, we need to update the definition to include systemic oppression so that it reflects that America has always been a racist country, even though the narcissist only had just graduated from college. I mean, but I shouldn't even call her a narcissist, just a sellout, likely doing it, for somebody else, for the DEI agenda. So that's how sick this all is, okay? Because when you start playing with words like this is why I had somebody tell me in my comment section that I replied to not too long ago, a couple days ago, that said, you can't be racist at whites. See, that's really dangerous because you definitely can, all right? And yet, when they change those definitions, then it changes what happens law-wise too. Because the law looks at definitions, right? But this all came in because of George Floyd, all designed to change history, to make you believe that there's always been this racist problem and systemic problem that in all of these institutions, the medical system, the medical and nursing associations pushed this. That's why in everything they write, it's about DEI. That's why it's so hard to get rid of. We have to get rid of it. We have to kill it. But just think, if you're on the right side of DEI, all you have to do is email this communist here. And if you're all about the communist, socialist DEI agenda, she'll be more than happy to just check with a partner of hers. And then they will just change the dictionary for you. What bullshit all of this is.